So thank you all for coming. I know it's a gazetted holiday today. It's something that we hadn't taken into account when we decided to put this together because the deadline for submissions for this discussion on the proposed amendments to the IT rules is tomorrow. And we thought it'll be a good sort of time to have a conversation on what everyone's thinking and how everyone's thinking about the submissions. So one thing is that this when I know we've called this the deepfake regulation, but this is effectively impacting all synthetically generated information. So it could be, or definitionally, it could include audio, video, text. It could include, um, you know, AI avatars. It could include filters on photographs, um, and but really, caused this change is this explosion of generative AI, and the internet is getting flooded with AI outputs and synthetically generated information. This is because they're easier, faster, and cheaper to do than ever before. Someone said to me in a conversation we held uh, earlier this year that as publishers, we have no right to claim copyright because the cost of content creation is tending towards zero. Now, when the cost becomes zero, quantity goes through the roof. And I can understand that what we're seeing is there's some sort of harm, that deep fakes of politicians before elections, of film stars, of our finance minister, trying to get them to invest in one scheme or the other. I've seen some of these videos, they seem really realistic. And as the fraud capital of the world, at least in terms of volume, there is a need to address these issues before they take on new forms. Um, and I've even got AI generated spam calls from real estate companies where I've had a conversation with the AI bot on the other side. And when I asked, okay, which LLMs are you using? Which model are you using? And they said, I use a mix of different models, but I'm not allowed to disclose anything. So this is only going to increase, right? And that's the problem. This is basically the fake news problem that we've been discussing for the last 8 years, 9 years on steroids, and taking on a shape that makes it more believable. So Rajneel Kamath will join us for the last session today. He reminded us in our prep call that fake ads actually go live at night. They run for 24 hours, and before even the platforms are able to detect them, um, they've made their money and they vanish. So there's Rajneel. I was just talking about what he told us on the call. So I know that the ministry is now trying to get ahead of this problem through this draft amendment, but they require any AI generated content to to have visible or audible labels uh, that can't be removed, and to have metadata that cannot be removed. And the intention is good, to curb impersonation, to address misinformation. But what we've learned from our conversations with folks is that it's anything but simple, and it can have impact on commercial returns. And Today every process is a mix of human and an AI input. So for Paushali, who's joining us, they use multiple models together. The content is hosted on US servers, and so how do you regulate the output? How do you regulate the generation? What is the impact on founders? Siddharth, when we spoke, mentioned that they can generate AI, thousands of AI outputs, differentiated AI outputs, um, in terms of content, or visibility. There's also a startup that I've been talking to in Singapore that can create, for earring brands, for example, show the same earring on different kind of on women with different facial features, dressed in different attire, regional, local attire. So that ability to customize that scale is really, really high. So if that has a disclaimer, how does it impact behavior? And so is this who's liable for labeling? Um, how would a rule that's written primarily with political deepfakes and fraud in mind impact uh, voice startups impact content startups, image outputs. And then there's a constitutional angle, right? If everything is forcibly defined, has to carry this label of being synthetically generated, then isn't it a restriction on speech? Content that appears authentic, that phrasing is really broad. So then, uh, isn't it doesn't it lead to arbitrary implementation? So there are lots of questions that we have. So we're going to look at this in three different sessions. The first is going to look at the business lens, because one of the things that I feel strongly is that folks in policy don't understand what founders are building, right? And how the tech environment is changing, and how not just AI, how AI especially is being used for business. And what is it that's reducing cost, increasing innovation, improving outputs? How are they innovatively using it? And therefore, what gets impacted with this regulation? The other is the legal and the platform lens, which is how does it impact social media platforms? Are generative AI companies intermediaries? So that's the other lens that you want to look at. And the last one is from the how tricky is it to detect and regulate uh, sort of AI outputs, and from a technical perspective. So we have Piyush from Neural Garage, from Neural Defend, who's joining us, and he they literally do deepfake detection. So, and then Apar is going to give us a rights perspective. So we have uh, great speakers. I've prepared like 137 questions, which is impossible for us to get through, but we have a lot of questions. Um, so I'll start actually. So also, I'd like to thank our sponsors, AWS, Google, and Meta, for supporting this conversation. Um, I'm going to start with Sanket because he's just come off an AI movie festival. He's the founder of InVideo, and uh, he has limited time. So I'll just talk to him for 10-15 minutes, and then we'll start the panel discussion. Sanket, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hey, thanks for joining us, Sanket. Can you tell us, to start off with, um, for the people in the room, give us an understanding of what InVideo does? Uh, how do your clients use it? What sort of outputs you generate? What do you do?
Sure. NVIDIA is a video creation software. It's built at the center of AI. However, I've been running this company for over 8.5 years now. Um, in terms of revenue, we do late double-digit revenue. Overall, we have 50 million users from 190 countries. 8-9 million videos get created every single month. Um, when it comes to video creation, think about any form of video creation, an explainer video, an avatar-based video, which is the topic of today, an ad, a promo video, any type of video, YouTube video, mostly any type of videos get created on the platform from users across the world.
So, what's your, you said how many million videos every month?
9 million videos a month.
9 million videos a month. So
Yes.
I'm just curious, right? There's going to be a requirement of about 10% of the visual space of content permanently covered with a disclaimer. How does it impact you and your clients?
Uh, it uh, it impacts very, very greatly. I think that what we are talking about is very few cases where there are bad actors, and bad actors are always going to find a way with open source models available across the world from different countries. Uh, India is also a very small part of our business. However, I think will kill a lot of creativity, but I also believe that there needs to be a balanced take to counter elections, to make sure that democracy lives, to make sure that we don't have interference here. And I think there are many, many ways how this can be controlled. But if there is a 10% space for tagging an AI synthetic content, uh, AI content will stop being created because all the platforms will show it in a particular way. You will not get clicks and you will not get views, which also wipes off several highly creative people in the world who are playing with their ideas with AI and the barriers that AI actually remove.
So can you, but you yourself said that there are bad use cases, there are deep fakes which are being used for fraud. How do you prevent that while retaining the good?
There are actually multiple ways, and I think all there is no one single solve, but there are multiple ways how this can happen. What I believe, and we have seen this time and again, that every time any company uh, builds strict regulation around it, uh, the bad actors always will find a way. If all closed source models stop you, then they will go to an open source model and do that. And there are many open source models that will allow you to create any type of content, including NSFW. So the way there are steps that people who host the videos need to take, and there are steps that people who create the video need to take. Uh, the two steps that are extremely important is uh, all these companies have right to moderate content. So if it's political content, if it's election related content, if it is a celebrity check, and you can have thousands of celebrities in your celebrity check, you don't allow anyone to create a deepfake, uh, which is one solve. The second solve is that every time you are trying to create a video with likeness, there is a video verification process. And those systems are extremely easy to implement. They need to happen. Every time you upload an avatar to create a video and lip sync on it with an audio, there can be a live camera check before which it doesn't go through. If I have to throw some light at the data, I think 80% of the users, we reject 80% of the users to be able to create a likeness video on InVideo today, which of course hurts revenue and business, but because the verification gets failed. And I know that, and we interview these people, and I know that all those 80% of people go elsewhere. To protect that, if there is content that is celebrity based, that's interference with elections, if that has political repercussions, I think the platforms like YouTube, Meta will have to make sure that that content gets violated or there is an AI tag. But bringing in a policy across, you also kill an AI filmmaker, and you also kill a Varun Maya, who are extremely important to the world. And we can't have those kind of blanket rules, but we should also definitely battle. Like, we don't want interference in our elections for sure. And that needs to be battled. And it told you like these are the three ways it can be battled.
So one of the things that we see happening is that people intermix real footage um, with AI generated content. Uh, how do you determine what is synthetic, what is not? How do you determine what kind of output is interfering with elections, or what kind of output is fraud versus what is real?
The simple take here is that you are, of course, now when you are matching real and fake, you are talking about a person being in the video. You can do a camera verification for that person before they are allowed to create a video.
But that's for going live, right?
No, not going live, right? Like while you're creating a video, what's happening? Okay, so if you're creating a fake video, let's say I'm creating a fake video of you talking, then I still have to change your lips and I still have to apply audio on top of it, which sounds like you.
Okay.
For that, I can do a real-time verification using the computer camera to say that the person whose video is created and the person who's creating the video, are they the same? Is this person giving an OTP consent?
So, but then that also happens that in cases there are teams that create videos for individuals, and it creates a requirement for that person to be on video, on camera at that point in time when the
Yes,
video is getting created.
sure. It's a one-time verification where you say, I give consent to a particular
Okay.
device. I give consent and I allow you to create a video of me, and here's my verification code. And that's done with your computer camera real time. And then
And
they match
and the
the
computer
footage.
camera can't be fooled.
I don't think it can be fooled. I think there are no ways that you can fool it because it's live. Uh, the person's right there, and you can match the footage with the uploaded footage and say that, hey, do you want to give? Is this approved or not? Which is one of the simplest ways that InVideo follows, and it's very efficient.
So they will, the way we've seen it is that when there are checks and balances put in place, people find ways of bypassing them. So if InVideo puts in this real time, this camera verification model for consent, there'll be others, like you said, who will go to an open source model and use that. How do you then address that part of the problem? Or do you think,
Yes.
is there some, so, sure, go ahead.
There are 6 ways, I think. The first way is that you can have a celebrity check, and that celebrity check can have 10,000 celebrities or 50,000 celebrities. Where you, and I'm calling every government official, I'm calling every actor, every famous person a celebrity, for a lack of a better word. Anytime you're trying to upload a content of that, that can go through very strict checks and balances.
Okay.
Anytime or you don't allow a celebrity content to be uploaded on a platform.
And that protects some people in that sense. But there's also other kinds of inauthentic ads that can be done without an individual. Uh, okay, so you're saying someone, but where does a celebrity check take place?
It gets check place in the platform where the content is uploaded, because
Is
if
uploaded.
people are going to bypass our tools and use something open source, then the only place that it can be checked is uh, the publisher, which
which
is
takes which takes end-to-end encrypted platforms out of the game because they can't do that check.
which takes whom out of the game?
End-to-end encrypted platforms like WhatsApp, which is where a large amount of the disinformation might be spreading.
It can. It can. The
You
second
say,
part
hmm.
The second part is that, I mean, sure, it can be end-to-end encrypted, but if there's a politically sensitive information, if there can be content moderation. What I mean by content moderation is there are specific topics of science, of elections, of celebrity doing something that is not safe. Those things can be stopped. But otherwise, like, you don't have a choice here in this world, because I don't want to say this, but there are a bunch of Chinese models where this is just going to happen because they are open source.
So let's say this 10% um, mandatory sort of disclosure goes through. How do you then? Uh, is it feasible for you to operationalize visual labeling and metadata embedding at scale without sort of breaking automation pipelines of some sort? Is it feasible to basically tag
I
everything?
just No, I just think that AI videos get killed on a
Uh,
large spectrum. If
Sorry, I couldn't understand that.
any form of AI video
Yeah.
that people are creating today, largely that creativity gets taken away. And when that creativity gets taken away, I think it doesn't get taken away from I don't think it gets taken away from the world. It only gets taken away from India. So basically,
And
you will see large companies not release models in this part of the world. They'll not have access.
and is it possible to embed provenance in outputs, as in who's created something without it getting removed? Because one of the things that we've learned is that when content gets uploaded, it sort of gets transcoded and loses metadata. So is a C2PA kind of provenance possible? Will it work on multiple platforms?
Mostly, this will give an opportunity for new kind of companies who will help you fight it and bypass it. And there are umpteen number of ways to bypass this.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Sanket? Uh, Start with Ashish, then Jatin.
Uh, Hi, Sanket. I had a question. Like, I think Nikhil also alluded to this. There's like almost like this constant arms race, right? Even if you make a rule, somebody using open source or some sort of. So, should we just make our peace with that, or are we on the technical side looking for that perfect solution which can uh, fundamentally detect you know, like maybe that breakthrough hasn't happened yet, but will eventually happen? Like, I was just wondering which of these two camps should we make our peace that it's going to be a constant arms race with people who want bad actors and publishers and platforms trying to prevent it, or we are optimistic about a fundamental breakthrough which could uh, have a more lasting solution.
The question I ask often is that basically, is this important? And I think it is important to fight it. And I don't think that the first answer to this is going to be a winning solution, but I think you will get very, very fast iterating towards it. And you will go very, very far to reduce the surface area of this problem very, very drastically. And this should be addressed, but in a very nuanced way, where you actually don't hurt 99% of the things that are happening, and you reduce the surface area where 1% of people who are trying to beat the system, you are going to reduce the surface area of that. So I do believe that we should not make peace with it. And I believe that we have that social responsibility where we need to stop certain things. And we should have very nuanced rules around it. And we should keep finding solutions, implementing solutions, and iterating over it till it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt the civilization in most forms.
Okay, I forgot to mention one thing, Sanket. You're okay with this conversation being on record, right? We said Chatham House initially, but I think for this session, we thought on record is fine.
I am okay to be on record on this
Okay,
one. Yes.
cool. Everyone's okay with it. Great, thanks.
Yeah, hi Sanket. This is a pointed question on your celebrity check solution. So basically, it does not protect the more vulnerable and those who are not celebrities. So the marginalized get marginalized even further. That targeting doesn't stop. What is the solution for that?
We will have to prioritize. And for prioritization, I think we need to have what is very, very important for the society as prioritized. And we will have to think very, very deeply about what is going to create the highest amount of impact to the society. And we'll have to go there step by step. One place that if the only place where a normal human can be exploited is really if they create some NSFW content or something that is not right, that is just not right for the world. It's controversial, it's not right, it's harming someone. There can be moderation policies for that, and I don't think those moderation policies are very difficult. In fact, I think that Google and like YouTube and Meta already have very tight policies to actually stop that. They get bypassed sometimes.
Okay, I'm going to ask for short questions and short answers because I know you're running out of time, Sanket. We don't want to hold you back.
Sure.
Should I go?
Yes.
Yeah.
Short question here, then there was a question here. We'll
Hi,
take two questions together. Thanks.
Okay. Hi, Sanket. Just a quick thing on when you talk about controversial content of normal people. We are already seeing that happen, right? We are seeing revenge porn happening, ex-girlfriends, deepfake videos being circulated. And content moderation has not worked so far with social media very effectively. So now content is getting created on multiple platforms. There are wrapper tools where I can create one frame on Kling, I can create the second frame on Midjourney, I can create the third frame of View or Sora, and then put a video together. So detection becomes very difficult. So how do you tackle that? Is my question.
Second question, and we'll just take both of them together, sir.
So my question is regarding even putting a guardrail on celebrity sort of video generation, because I would say that satire has been a part and parcel of, human civilization. So why can't we extend that to AI as well? Because I don't know if I'm able to get access to generating videos of some.
Got your point.
politicians. Yeah. Okay.
Sanket?
I think this particular control will have to stay with the publishers, and really it will lie to the publishers. I think the content creation tools can do so much. Most likely what happens when we'll put guardrails, which we do, is that people are going to just go to different tools. So unfortunately, publishers will have to do this.
And on the revenge porn question?
That is the content moderation guidelines, right? Like you don't let anyone upload this kind of content at all.
So
Anything
fundamentally, what you're saying, from what I can gather, is that the control needs to happen at the publisher end, at the platform, distribution platform end, not at the generation end?
I'm saying it should be both. But I'm saying that, hey, the open source models are going to allow it. And we don't control that. And the last thing that I'm saying is that This is the moderation I'm talking about, that you never allow a revenge porn content to be uploaded on any particular platform. And I don't think it's very difficult to do this.
Okay, two very quick questions here. Quickly, if you could get the mic here. There was a mic here also. Come, you could just...
Hi everyone. My question is regarding the usage of community sort of tools in order to combat deepfakes. So let's say a video gets uploaded, and we know that that video is fundamentally not true. Then from the publisher's side, can we sort of use something like what we have at Grok right now, where sort of Grok verifies the information that has been posted in order to say whether that is factually correct?
Sorry, is that satire?
No, I mean, there's
Okay.
yeah.
We'll touch upon that later, but
Yeah, circling back to the celebrity check module, Sanket, can you help me understand who is going to own this data? So would all the content generating startups or organizations have a record of those 10,000 celebrities? This introduces another vulnerability around protection of the data itself. So how do you conceive this as a solution for the problem that we are talking about?
I'm not sure about how does it cause problem with the data, because we have multiple engines that can like update this data real time. It can be updated every few hours. It can be updated every few minutes. So I don't really completely understand the question.
so we'll get to that again later. But Sanket, would you, if this goes through, would you have to stop servicing India? Maybe.
We will have to stop servicing. I will have to. If this goes through, then we'll have to definitely figure out a particular strategy for India. Yes, and I don't know what that strategy looks like today.
Got it. Got it. Sanket, thank you so much for your time. I know you're really, really busy, and but thank you for coming on board for this
Thank you so much
important
for having me.
discussion.
Thank you.
Yes. Cheers. Thanks.
Thanks.
Okay, so we'll move on to the rest of the panel. Sid, I want to start with you. Can you give us a sense of how the advertising industry is using AI? You've been in the in the digital advertising sector for as long as we've known each other, which is what, 18 years now. So how's the advertising ecosystem using AI? And it's changed, right? You have known about you're kind of right on top of what's happening everywhere, because you want to know where to invest as well. So what has changed in the last 1 year? How are advertisers using AI?
First of all, Nikhil, thanks for inviting. Fundamentally, what's been happening within the digital and the media monetization space is that AI has been a boon, fundamentally. And why it has been a boon is largely because of three reasons. First is that, like was pointed out by Sanket, was that a lot more media owners are now able to create a lot more media at scale, right? So that's been the content is getting created at scale, etc. So it's creating a lot more opportunity, a lot more attention, a lot more eyeballs. So that's definitely one thing positive, because advertising follows wherever the eyeballs are. Second is that the biggest problem statement in advertising always has been is that, are we showing the right ad to the right customer? Are you getting to see what is relevant for you? And relevancy is the holy grail of advertising, that imagine we're just able to get that one right, non-irritating, intrusive ad to you, right? That's something what we call as personalization of the ad. And while a lot of data, etc., has been getting collected over the last decade, the last mile piece which was missing was, how do you show a personalized ad to an individual, right? So that you're able to change the messaging to sound as contextual as possible. So now, because of AI, that's become fundamentally possible. So that's the second big thing which has happened.
As in personalize an ad to an individual in terms of what you think they would
Absolutely.
want,
So
and do it on the fly.
Absolutely. That's become possible, right? Let's go back, and you were the one who reminded me of that ad, right? Mondelez or Cadbury's, there's this big ad campaign with Shah Rukh Khan, which was last Diwali, where you could send out personalized greetings to your loved ones, right? So, which was basically saying that message from you. Now, that's only possible at scale because of AI. Otherwise, the cost of production of such kind of thousands and thousands of videos is extremely high, right? So, that's possible, and making it very authentic is something whereas AI models continue to get upgraded, that's something which has become possible, right? That's second. And third, and the other interesting area which has created a new transformation is that earlier, a lot of businesses, right? Businesses, when they were trying to do advertising online or do advertising in general, they never used to go on beyond, let's say, social media or Google search, etc. They were not able to go to TV. They were not able to go to radio. They were not able to go to the digital platform because, again, they did not have the financial resources to create ad for each and every kind of opportunity which is available. No one will think about building an audio ad for an FM. No one will build thinking about going to TV कि अरे ad बनाने का ही खर्चा इतना ज़्यादा आ जाएगा, right? That used to be a barrier. And again, AI, just because of how better AI has become, and to, of course, the likes of Sanket's company, which are helping shorten that cycle, now you're able to create well-produced kind of a video ad, allowing even smaller businesses to go to television, to go to these OTT platforms as an advertiser much faster. So it really democratized opportunity for a lot many other media owners which did not have that chance. So I think these are the three big things, positive impact what AI has brought to the industry in the advertising side.
So what kind of ads are we seeing right now? Like, what kind of people are we seeing advertised also?
Also, today, I think so. If we look at the whole industry, right, and India is now approximately $11-12 billion digital advertising industry. We're at 18 to $20 billion overall advertising economy. So on that 11 billion, if I was just to go pre-COVID, 5 years back, we would typically see around 25,000 odd people advertising, right? And we were
That's it?
yeah, that's it. We were like around 25,000 meaningful advertisers. And when I say meaningful, is people who may be spending more than $50,000 annually on advertising. But around 25,000 brands. 5 years back, our economy was around $4 billion digital advertising, give or take pre-COVID. Now at $11 billion, our AdX has expanded to 140,000 of such brands. Right. So that is the perfilation which has happened. So that is the kind of merchants and businesses. And I'm not even counting the long tail of businesses which are also come online, which could be, like India's projected to be a million merchants, businesses market from an advertising opportunity standpoint over the next 5 years.
And are we so also we've got advertising on e-commerce platforms, videos, etc. So has that changed? Can merchants now make videos?
Absolutely. And again, that's the biggest impact that you and I, like even Nikhil, for your Media Nama, you can now have a small video ad going for just like $2 to $5. You can just create and you can then run advertising around it on India-Pakistan match or wherever cricket is happening, sport is happening, etc. So all that is option available.
So the cost of production is next to zero. The cost of distribution is all that remains there.
Absolutely.
Okay. Basadi, can you tell us what you do with voice? How does it work?
Sure.
What does your business do?
Sure. So basically, Nikhil, we are a B2B SaaS company that helps small and medium businesses build AI voice agents that work as your 24/7 call center. So think of them as like a smart receptionist, a very competent sales and customer support executive. They can answer calls, follow up with your leads, solve routine inquiries so that businesses don't miss any of their customer queries, leads. And the fun thing is, this is all automated and they can capture insights from the conversations as well. Like, what was the intent of the call? What is the urgency of the customer? So that their teams at the back end can just act faster and more efficiently. But if I were to just add on one thing, what Siddharth was just saying was how he talked about, how small businesses can now run like video ads on television and all like platforms, which is not possible without AI before. Same thing applies to us. A lot of small businesses could not afford to have 24/7 customer care or call center. Now with AI, it is available. You pay what you use, and it's very flexible for them.
So how do your systems work? Like, where do you get voice samples from? What
Right.
tools do you use? How feasible is it to add a 10% audio disclaimer to them?
Right. So how the voice system works is basically we rely on stitching up a lot of big vendors. For example, say OpenAI for the thinking capability of the agent. Then we say add on Google Voice for the voice itself. Say if we were to use Indian multilingual, then we could use Sarvam AI to do those same things. That is how the system works in general. Now, talking about the 10% thing, see, the entire technology is very new and we have early adopters in the system right now. However, the technology is still being built in US dollars, right? We get billed in USD and we pass on the same cost to our consumers. And this is a live stream call. None of this is recorded. This is live stream call. So if you ask me what is 10% of a live stream call, I don't know. I can only tell you after the live stream, the call ends, right? But even if I were to give a benefit of doubt and say, add in the first 10 seconds of the call itself that, hi, I am an AI generated voice. See, it ruins the user experience. If I were to say it, it definitely ruins the user experience and it creates a sort of untrustworthiness for the brand, the business that is using it. So untrustworthiness is there, and the cost wise, we bill people in per minute. So the as the seconds drag on, the cost for the business is also increase. Yeah.
Thanks. Thanks, Pashari. So, Abhishek, you're in the social commerce space. And as a disclosure, I'm an investor in Abhishek's company. So can you give us a sense of how you're using AI and also what are you planning to use AI for?
Yeah, so I think when we first started working on Zoop, we weren't really sure how AI fit into the space because the whole idea was that we want like smaller merchants and actual sellers to be empowered to be able to access more distribution, stuff like that. So we didn't really see how AI would work as an enabler, but over time, what we started realizing was that, okay, there are a lot of good use cases and AI can definitely help people do things that they were not capable of doing before. So I'll give you a couple of examples of things that we run in production right now. So one of the things that we run is that as sellers, like, so we basically do like live and social commerce. So people sell over live video. The reason that a lot of people started doing this, especially in small town India, was because they didn't understand slash like they aren't well educated enough to make really good catalog listings and to succeed on platforms like Amazon and Flipkart. What works way better for them is say like vernacular commerce, right? Because they understand how to talk to their customers, they understand unique problems that people have. They also are able to give a degree of personalized service that a large platform cannot. So one of the things that we realized when we pushed out was that they can show products over live video and we catalog them in real time. So that enables formalized checkouts without having merchants or small town vendors have to learn all these complex systems. So it like I also think most production AI systems today are compound systems. So you'll have like LLM calls, you'll also have custom models. So for example, the AI cataloging workflow that we have involves speech to text. It then involves like, a few LLM calls to pull out structured output. And after that, we also use a custom object detection model that we built in-house to isolate the right frame to pick for the product images. And a second layer we're adding on top of that is also to enhance those frames, since someone's showing like, say a kurti in a video, things are moving, it's not the best image. So to enhance that, and that's the next part of stuff that we're working on. So what you'll notice over here is that AI is being used everywhere. And in some cases, AI is being used in a way that's non-distortionary. It's not being used to generate anything new. It's just being used to transform data. So that is one kind of way that we're using it. Other than this, we also use it in lots of small ways. Like a lot of sellers and a lot of small town creators and stuff, they are not very empowered to easily make good thumbnails for videos. And that really matters on platforms like YouTube. So we automatically generate thumbnails after their video is completed. So even small things like this, I think AI is the greatest enabler in contexts and spaces where people are not able to engage with the system the way it is today. So like, I think voice AI, that's why it's so promising, because a lot of people can't type that well and they are not that literate. And that's where it becomes a big enabler. In terms of future plans and what we started working on, we've been figuring out how to create AI avatars of people who already sell on our platform and connect them to brands and stuff. Because to enable this kind of stuff at scale, it needs to be it should not be prohibitive in terms of cost. It should be something easy for brands to opt into, at least to try out for the first time. And the way we've thought about it is that some of our hosts and some of our sellers who are from like towns like Ambala, for example, right? They're really good on camera and they haven't had too many opportunities, but this gives them a door, or like a foot through the door, right? To be able to engage with a brand who maybe starts with their AI avatar, but then sees results with that and wants the real person in. So that's some of the other stuff that we've been working on.
Okay, Siddharth, tell me, how does this, what is going to be the impact of a 10% visual label on advertising in particular?
So this is something we have tried like almost 1.5 years back, not from a declaration that the video is made by AI, but basically, essentially, we were trying to do A/B test for one of our retailers, retailer clients on if you put a logo on the ad on the right-hand side, which is approximately 10% space taken, how does it impact the click-through rate? Click-through rate in our definition, how many people end up clicking on the ad? And this was a retailer which, so there were two experiments we ran. One we ran with a retailer who was trying to build, let's say, a shopping ad, which mean a product converted into a video ad for their Facebook advertising, for the social advertising. And one was a nobody. Let's say it's a young retailer, they're not a brand per se. The person who was a brand retailer, for them it had a positive enforcement. So as soon as the brand logo came on the video ad, 10% of the space there, we saw the uplift of approximately 10 to 12% because it added trust, and trust plays a very important role in advertising. And for the other, it was a negative, it went down by 15%. And we tried multiple methodologies. So the negative impact is higher, the positive impact is still there. So again, why I'm sharing this information is that fundamentally, how we are going to bring this in, like if an ad starts to be said it's made by AI, I see the latter being the case right now because of lack of awareness on why it is being done to put out a logo. That if we say, hey, this ad is made by AI, the chances are people are just going to pull back from it and may not click. And this may have up to 15% of business impact on people who are trying to run ad and spend money.
And this is on retailers, basically.
I'm talking anyone who's trying to sell online. Yes.
Abhishek, what impact would a 10%, like how would you implement a 10% sort of a coverage on a live video? Because you're doing it on live,
Yeah,
right?
it's really challenging. But I mean, I suppose you could put a watermark or something, but I think it would really hamper. I think the fact that some of these things are firstly like new technologies, and even as a format, right? Like selling over live video, something's pretty new as a concept in India. Not many people have heard of it. Very few people are doing it. So I think it just becomes a disincentive to a lot of these things. I think,
But also a single screen can have multiple AI generated live elements, right?
yes, so that also becomes confusing. And what also I think becomes really challenging to navigate is that, for example, let's say we have an AI avatar, and then you have real products, and you're trying to, impose those products onto a frame with an AI avatar. Now, a user may not be able to understand that maybe the AI avatar is something that's synthetic, but the product being imposed is as real as possible. So these kind of nuanced situations also become confusing. Not really sure actually. It would have to be really thoughtful in terms of how it's done. But maybe if played correctly, users feel like, okay, someone is not trying to con me, and I have all the relevant information required, but that's easier said than done, I think.
Because there is a gap between reality and what you see as AI generated. Right? Like I just put in a return a couple of days ago for something that I'd liked on Amazon and looked great in the photograph. I got the product. It was supposed to be hand painted, nothing close to what I'd seen. So I returned it. So, but there needs to be this gap filled, right? Because what is could also be used to mislead people in terms of the quality of the product or in terms of the look of the product.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
And maybe not intentionally mislead, but it can mislead people.
No, it can for sure. But I think regulation for stuff like that is better placed in like consumer protection, because that's someone who's selling your product who's misleading you as a consumer. I think bringing AI regulation into this, I don't think it's really going to help it too much. At least that's my early sense of things. Because if you think about, say, for example, even product images and stuff like that, like how far do we go? For example, are you not allowed to do professional photo shoots anymore? Because they look much better in professional photo shoots than they look in your house. And that is a way to convince someone to buy something. So, I mean, everyone is constantly trying to make a sell, right? And
Every ad that we see in a newspaper has gone through a post photography processing cycle where, let's say, someone's like for a toothpaste brand, someone's teeth might have been whitened.
absolutely.
That's also synthetically generated whitening of teeth. So where does this end? Siddharth, you also have a platform that hyper personalizes videos at scale, right? Can you tell us how that works and how would the 10% impact be there?
So fundamentally, the problem statement we end up solving for a lot of our customers is that, a lot of large e-commerce companies, they have big catalogs, right? They will have thousands and millions of SKUs. And now essentially the big problem is that today you and I as consumers, are consuming more videos as compared to static images. So all of this ad inventory or attention is getting created, which requires video ads for them to run or be present in those environments. So essentially, we have a software by the name of vidtech.ai. What essentially it does is that it takes that catalog, which is available in a static format from an images perspective, and it then does adaptation versioning using AI to convert that into videos, which can then goes into these respective platforms wherever the brand wants to take them from an advertising standpoint. So we convert that into video. Now, like I said, that it has been really a game changer to adopt AI, because now more and more consumer attention is within the video environment, and brands cannot create a video for each and every item within their catalog and personalizes depending on the environment. So it's been a great game changer. The uplift or on a campaign have been as high as 30%, because video just tends to communicate better to the end consumer. And so it has a direct impact on the kind of success it gives to the brand, which is trying to advertise in that environment. So now if such kind of thing gets implemented out, like I said, it's very early. It's very hard to answer it on a 0 to 1 basis, that yes, there's going to be a negative impact per se or not. But I would definitely see that till the time we fundamentally solve on how this is to be perceived in the market. Example, today, UPI is a stamp of approval and is seen in a positive light by consumers. Right. So if there is an awareness built out where people understand that that's a stamp of approval, it comes from authority, it comes with compliance, I would say it could have a positive impact. But on the other side, if we're going back to that, the onus is on the platform, whichever platform which is going to be hosting that content, to certify, to regulate. I would largely see it will have a negative impact, because I've seen that play off across the last 10 years.
So this is something which I was thinking about as a solution, a trust mark as opposed to a
Correct.
distrust mark, which is what the 10% AI marking seems to be.
And the fundamental problem is, I think so, because I spent so much of time in China, Singapore, Saudi, all these markets where there's some bit of, regulated view to the society on how we consume content. I think so we have to fundamentally take a view that when we look at implementation of such things, we are doing everything in silo. We don't have a fundamental ideological view on how we do or moderate or control or give direction to the society. For example, when we look at Singapore, right? Yeah. Singapore has the same set of problems what we have. But there, the government, the authorities are trying to invest a lot more dollars behind awareness, right? Building a seal of trust. And of course, they're also having authority. They're trying to regulate. They're trying to come up with everything, work with the model owners, with the platform owners. But again, the ownership is that let's use communication and awareness more as a tool as compared to while we do regulation working with the ecosystem. Whereas on the side, we have China, which takes a completely extreme other view, which says that I want to control every step and I want to be an intervention in society from a supply chain standpoint on how it's been done. I think so. We try to solve problems in silos. I think so. This is not a silo problem. It's not a point solution problem, and that's my problem with how this is being approached, and it will have a negative impact.
Pashali, just to get a sense from you, you work with multiple external voice providers, voice cloning. How would you even ensure that labeling or metadata requirements under Indian law apply to that system? Is this compliance technically or legally possible?
Right. So
Because it's
first,
impacting generating and not just distribution, right?
yes, of course. So, two things. I'm not sure if it will exactly answer your questions, but two things I can just like say. Our first is the fact that if the government were to say do watermarks or some sort of labeling, so what exactly is the government trying to label? Like how do you actually implement it? Is the government going to provide APIs? Is it going to become like a full SaaS provider, or is it going to support building an ecosystem of providers who help with labeling, watermarking, and all that? Then the question comes: who
I think
decides
neither of
how
the
we label
two,
stuff?
neither of the two. The thing is that it's your problem to solve, not theirs. Once the regulation is out there.
Right, right. I mean, that is just like that is just prohibitive for all the innovators and builders, I would say, on a small scale. And the second point that I would just wanted to say is, see, we use a lot of international voice models and voice cloning, but the thing is the guardrails that you're talking about, they're built into the foundational models. For example, the
Okay.
guardrails are built into OpenAI. If I were to use Google voice cloning, then Google has a very strict voice cloning policy. So we depend mostly on their good faith for all the guardrails. Yeah.
Okay, but is it possible for you to actually insert that disclaimer at the generation stage?
Yes, it is
At
possible. It
at
is
scale?
technically possible. Yes,
Okay.
it is possible. It's just a prompt. It's just a prompt. Yes.
Okay. And
But it's not ideal though. It's not ideal because it's going to cost everyone money.
because there'll also be hallucinations, even with that prompt, right?
Yes, but hallucination is a very smaller part of it, I would say. But yeah, hallucination is very small. It is like reduced a lot because the way we provide our services is that it's a mix of synthetic data plus real data. Yes, the end result is still synthetic, but the factual information still precedes over the synthetic data. So hallucinations are less, but it's still possible. And honestly, there is no way for us to like have guardrails for that. It's just how the foundational models work, just how the
Yeah,
technology
actually,
works.
that's
But we
one
can
thing that's
still
happened.
evaluate the agents.
Yeah, that's one thing that's happened in the last 1 year, right? The conversation around hallucinations has just died because they don't happen as much anymore, even though they do sometimes. I'm just curious, Prashali, that just because you have a sense of policy. You mentioned that you've done your thesis on a tech policy subject. I'm just curious about uh, who do you think is legally responsible for compliance over here when you're using multiple models, right? The Indian deployer, the foreign model provider, or your platform that's stitching this service together?
See, Nikhil, I think it's neither of those. Because if I were to say, think of it this way, okay? Text is the new content, right? Because the user, the person who's creating the prompt, they should be the ones liable because it is their intentions that matter. Just think about how previously we used to regulate content. It is the user who's generating. It should be their liability. It's basically the safe harbor provisions. Why should the intermediaries be responsible? That is where I'm coming from.
Do you see yourself as an intermediary?
Um, legally no, because we also generate the same thing. We're not an intermediary, but yes, the prompt is still done by our customers. We don't interfere in the prompt. So if if on a practical level we vet every business we work with, but if someone were to just lie to us, I'm just saying in bad faith, they lie to us and they still try to use our services, the onus should be on them because it is their intention that matters. The intention is what matters, is what I'm trying to say basically. Yeah.
Uh,
How the tool, why they're using it. Yeah.
Same question, Abhishek. Do you see yourself as a platform? Because your business sits in the middle of sellers and buyers, right? But the AI is being brought in by you in that mix. So do you see yourself as an intermediary or as a generative platform? What's your role in this mix?
I think that's a tricky question. I think we are an intermediary of sorts because we are like connecting two sides of a network.
Between the buy and sellers, that's
Yeah.
one part. But
Yeah.
in terms of generation of AI content
So
and its distribution, you perform both roles?
yeah, we do. We perform both roles. But I think the question of where is this a question about where liability should lie when
Yeah.
things go wrong?
Yeah.
I think honestly, yeah, it depends. See, it depends on situations. Like I'll give you a couple of examples.
Like if your AI avatar hallucinates,
It's on us, I think.
it's on you?
Yeah. It should be on us, I think. I mean, and that's the responsibility companies should take up because we are deploying these in like real world environments and we say that they can do certain things and we reap the benefits also, right, of it doing well. So I think it should be on us. But I think Paushali raised an interesting point on prompts. Right?
On
I think
prompts.
the problem with prompts though, or like creating any legislation around say, okay, if I prompt it a certain way and give me a certain output, I should be held liable. I think that is a bit tricky, and I don't think we should do that because you can take a model and open one up and prompt it the same thing 10 times, it'll give you different outputs. So I don't think that is the right standard. And I mean, it's just tricky, and it makes our role also trickier to navigate because we are not fully in control of what output might happen. So guardrails become more important. But no, I think to your point, we should be responsible, I think.
So if you're using, but again, your point about prompts is actually well taken, because that's true. Every output is different because it treats a previous output. If you are prompted again and again, it treats the previous output as not what you want, right? But when you use open source models, right? Let's say if you're using on, let's say, Hugging Face, right? If you're using Stable Diffusion or uh, without fine tuning, uh, again, who bears the labeling responsibility? Who bears the responsibility for hallucinations? The model developer, the hosting platform, or the fine company that fine tuned it, or the end user? Who owns that output liability? I
Can
mean,
I
you will,
just ask a
yeah,
question, Nikhil, if I were to
to me,
interrupt? Tell me exactly how is it? Yes, yes, yes.
okay.
Tell me, how is this exactly different from, say, using Photoshop? Why is the whole onus on AI itself? Because previously, Photoshop is also being used to, say, touch up images, do color correction. It is still synthetically generated. According to my reading of the act, it is still synthetically generated information. So, how is it different from using, say, a Photoshop, After Effects, or any sort of filters? Generate some sort of procedurally generated maps for games, someone draws on a tablet. How is this exactly different? Why is the onus on
Be-
AI, and why is the onus not on the intention of the tool?
that you'll have to ask the ministry why this focus. Because look, the difference is that Photoshop was used to touch up things, not necessarily generate things. Uh, in this case, you're generating something from scratch. So there is an element of being synthetic from scratch, so to speak, right?
But I would say, see, everyone, like in the previous like 5, 10 years, if someone had a decent enough skill to, just do video editing, they could generate deep fakes. They could just take like some uh, one
I
photo and put another person's face on it.
so
You understand
I
what I'm trying to say, right?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with her. So I think so. This is where the line needs to be drawn. There are two parts to it, and there are enough legal precedents which are available, both from how open source technology was being developed, hold accountable in the US and even in India, and vice versa. The example, I feel the fundamental principles are based on two things. One is who is extracting the economic value. That's number one. And number two was about, it was always about who owns the application or the distribution layer. So if we go back in times, almost a decade back, when we had all those cases around, porn content getting hosted on one of the large e-commerce and the CEO getting jailed for that. If you remember, who's now a big VC. And then, similar thing happened back in past with telcos, that in the US, that telcos were held liable from an internet standpoint, that if they're carrying porn, then they will be held responsible for that. I think so over the time, there are enough now rules and guidelines which have got set out on how those things need to get managed. And I think that those are the similar things which are applicable to this world. I agree with her is that if you don't per se hold an open source model responsible in such kind of scenario, I think so the responsibility lies on who derives the output, and then who in that value chain distributes it, takes out the economic benefit out of it. I think so all of those parties should be held responsible, and that's how it's been happening in the
So,
open source technology world and the other areas of technology.
so what I'm hearing from both of you is that the generative platforms need to be kept out of it. The user who
The LLM
creates
model itself, the application layer should not be,
the
because they're driving
application should not
economic
be,
value out of
because
it.
someone
Correct.
else is using it to create something.
If I'm running a web design agency using Adobe Photoshop to
But
morph
if
images and putting
if
out,
I'm
I'm
the
responsible.
if I'm the government, I have a and this is now scaling up like crazy. Uh, I'm no longer able to regulate just for harm. Saying when some harm happens, or let's for example, if there's revenge porn that goes up on a site, uh, uh, I can regulate the site, I can block the site, I can block the link, but that harm already has happened, right? So the platform will always act later, and harm's already happened. And the scale at which this can be done, I'm trying to regulate it at the source itself, where it gets generated, where there's some indication that this is fake, and then there's a responsibility on platforms to deal with it because it's artificial. Because it's now it's happening at a much larger scale than I could earlier. So I want to stop it at the application. I want to build in some mechanisms at an application layer, not just the user level and the distribution level.
So there I agree. I actually agree on that. So I think so from a technology standpoint, the big problem is we need to unbundle the underlying model and the application layer above that. So what we are saying is that there's a model, right? There's a model layer, and the model can have different use cases.
Okay.
Right? Using like a Grok, which was being talked, ChatGPT. These are application layers, right?
Yes.
I believe application layers should
Right.
also be held responsible, and there should be mechanisms available. I believe in that. Now, that's a personal opinion because I feel they extract economic value. They extract economic value from the activity happening. But what I'm saying is if it's an open source underlying model, right? I don't think so that is responsible. The application there, definitely to his point, as a platform, we should also be. It's an and problem. It is not a it's not a
Agreed.
or thing.
Even for an application now,
Yeah.
should they be responsible for marking every output that gets generated?
Maybe it's
because now millions and billions of millions of outputs will be generated because it's better, faster, cheaper, almost free.
They insert a watermark ID which can be encrypted back and be verified by the content hoster. There are multiple blockchain kind of models could be built out, an authority could build. There are opportunities available. I don't necessarily, I think so technology can solve for it. And I still believe it's an responsibility and a liability problem.
So if an output gets generated, and it's, let's say this is a conversation we had with Piyush before, and he's in the last session, so we'll discuss the deepfake problem, but images can be cropped or outputs can be cropped. When they go into a social network, they get transcoded, and so therefore metadata gets stripped. And if they get shared repeatedly, more, they get transcoded over and over again. So whatever provenance you build in gets lost.
Which is fine till the time there's traceability, and till the time we're
How
always.
do you build in traceability? Because the traceability can also be removed.
Like I said, that this is an ongoing battle with technology in every single other domain. We have to take the simple single source of rules and intention.
So what I'm
for us
hearing
to
is
solve that problem. Till the time we're coming with declarative intention, I think so it is the right way, right direction to move forward with.
So what I'm hearing from you is that there is no foolproof technical solution here.
The way technology moves, it never is.
And therefore, you can't attribute liability for something that isn't foolproof.
I think so. Liability, the stature of liability, just like how we look at IP, I think so that's a similar way we need to think about. We need to take the context also into account, the readiness of technology at that period before we hold someone accountable. And I think so we have time and again seen that, I will not say policy, but I'll say the legal ecosystem has delivered justice and judgment in that spirit. So I think so that is okay. I think so we will evolve. We are evolving in that direction.
There's
the technology movement.
Abhishek, any thoughts on this? From a legal perspective also, like there's no deterministic solution here, right?
I don't think so. But I think it would be better if honestly the conversation today was less about liability. I don't mean between us, but I think in general, less about liability and more about remediation and how you reduce the instances of this happening. How do we design these systems in a way that they're slightly safer? Because I don't think the liability question one is easily resolved. Number two, I don't think it's really pushing technology makers and say whatever, right? Like software developers to think about this in a way that is beneficial to society. So I think that shift could be useful.
Anyway, my fun question was that, there've been instances of the Prime Minister using AI to translate his speech into Tamil, for example. And I'm just wondering whether those speeches would also carry disclaimers of 10 seconds. That would be fun.
Nikhil, if I can add something.
Yeah. Paushali, also one more question attached to this for you, because we're talking about voice. Do you have an alternative to 10-second or whatever, 10% audio disclaimers? Because if I generate, let's say, a 3-hour video, documentary video on YouTube with just AI output, AI voice, effectively out of those 3 hours, I'll have to do 18 minutes of disclaimer.
Yeah. So see, ideally, just before a call starts, a text disclaimer should be enough. That informs the user, because the user is essentially clicking on a disclaimer. That should be more than fine, and that is doable. That is feasible, doable, technically. But if I were to just abstract from whatever
your
conversations
voice is.
we're having with Siddharth and
I think there's a
Abhishek. Yeah.
connectivity problem. We lost you there for a few minutes, for a minute.
Oh, okay. Should I repeat? What did you hear
Yes,
last?
yes,
What
please.
did you say? So I was just saying that it is definitely feasible and technically doable if we just put a small text disclaimer over the
Got it.
make a call button. That is definitely doable. Um, but if I were to just like draw the insights of our discussions, like from Siddharth and Abhishek, I would personally look at it from the way of more than pre-regulating any synthetically generated information. Why don't we focus our efforts and resources and regulation on the enforcement mechanism of it, on like catching the bad actors responsible? That is something I would like to think about.
I think that largely stems from the problem that the government has no capacity to enforce anything. So they're moving enforcement up the value chain, right? Then instead of making it their
But that's a
problem, they're
moot
making it
point,
your
though.
problem. But that's typically what happens in internet regulation anyway. They make it your problem instead of
Yes.
theirs.
Yes, but then you cast a wider net and you catch no one because it's not going to be enforceable practically, anyways, if you put everyone under the
Correct.
umbrella of any sort of synthetically generated information.
Correct. The idea is that when they do need to catch someone, so it'll also be arbitrary enforcement then, right? When they do need to catch
Yes.
someone, they will, someone who's spoken at Media Nama discussions often, Shekhar, used to say that the government needs a throat to choke when something goes wrong. So it's when they need it, they'll throw the rule book at you, basically. Otherwise, they'll just let everything slip through. Um, Fair enough. Any questions? Any comments? Aditi?
Hi, this was a really interesting discussion, especially with some of the testing that Siddharth and Pushali had talked about. Like Pushali talked about how when any kind of watermark or some kind of an audio label is put that this is AI generated, it ruins the user experience. And people say that it consider the ad or the particular video
Question.
to be untrustworthy. Similar thing was voiced by Siddharth with respect to big, small company. So when it comes to trust, is there deep distrust of AI in general, and which is why in advertising, perhaps even as what Abhishek called non-distortionary use of technology should be allowed, but perhaps completely synthetically generated media should not be allowed in, say, customer service, in advertising at all? I mean, I'm taking a very extreme position to keep the question short. Because the fundamental question is of trustworthiness. And it seems like when people see the label, they realize that, hey, this tiny company hasn't put in the effort, therefore our money shouldn't go into them. That's what your example seemed to suggest.
Someone once said to me that the most successful lies are those that mix the lies and a lot of truth. So it is the combination of real and artificial that really works as deception. If it's purely synthetically generated, it might not deceive that easily. It's the mix that makes a difference, right? I mean, that's just my take on this. That uh, purely synthetically generated, if you tag that may not necessarily help because it's usually discernible.
I also have.
Although that might no longer be the case.
I also think if you think about it in the short term versus the long term, see, maybe in the short term, there could be a slight fall, maybe right in conversions or something, we say it's AI generated. But perhaps in the longer run, people will feel like companies being transparent with them, not trying to sort of, take advantage of them, and are more forthcoming with how they're actually doing these things, might actually lead to better conversions, I suppose, in a market where maybe some people don't reveal this and you do. So, I mean, I don't know. Short term, though, I do agree that, like, yeah, right now, the way things are, it will probably lead to lower.
So just to add, I think so. I'll give you a very different perspective. Is that every 10 years there's generational shift in technology. So we're talking about now, hey, how will consumers look at AI generated videos? There is a new generation which is coming up, which is now living in Roblox. I don't know how many of you in this room even know about this, right? So Roblox is becoming the thing. People are having chats. They're just spending a lot more time there. That is a make-believe world. That is completely AI generated digital world, fastest growing, time attention being taken.
Minecraft.
So Minecraft, right? So that's where the world is going. So the new generation is anyway going to be in that world. For them, it doesn't matter if it's AI or not. I don't think so. The consumer gets negatively impacted by that. And that's the power of technology. And to Nikhil's point, right? The more real it is, and for each and every individual, that reality is very, very different, and technology just continues to upgrade that.
So it's about the uncanny valley, right? Beyond a threshold, like for example, if you go back to chatbots alone, I've forgotten the name now. There was a psychology bot created in the 60s. I actually used it when I got my first DOS computer. And to try to, the outputs were like terrible. You couldn't really have a conversation, just ask irritating questions. Now it's almost realistic. People know they're talking to a chatbot, but they're still using it for therapy. So we've crossed that point. We've crossed the uncanny valley where it seems so real that people don't care that it's artificial. And that's the problem statement we're dealing with in society right now. Questions? Yeah.
Yeah, it's more of a comment than a question. So I do agree with what Siddharth said in terms of having a different approach when we are talking about, say, intermediaries who do not have a role to play, say, a developer versus a deployer, right? Also, to your point, Nikhil, I think what you mentioned, there's a practical issue of not having enough enforcement mechanism or resources with the government, which is where they're trying to put the enforcement up the chain. I think what could have been done, and it's something that's a question worth asking the ministry still, because we still have time before this comes out, is to see why a risk-based approach has not been taken. I think
We're discussing that in the next session.
understand.
So any business-specific questions or things that you want to understand about how AI is being used, what mechanisms are people using?
In fact, related to that, I would want to ask a question to both Abhishek and Siddharth here. Now, when we talk about a risk-based approach, I understand the industry and especially the B2B players might have more relaxation there if we go in that direction. What is your view if we are getting into such kind of an approach, and if that approach is eventually taken by the government in the final rules that come out? Because essentially speaking, some of the public facing content really comes from the retail and other such stuff. So I think that is where the focus could still be, even if we look at some improvement in the final draft.
Well, you need to explain what is risk-based.
So risk-based is on the basis of risks identified. There's a separate set of regulations, and that's one of my solutions also, by the way. I didn't want to get into it, but where you identify, okay, if it is explicit content, if it is political content, if it is related, so you then you identify a series of risks, and that for that and you maybe identify particular platforms and hold them to a higher level of standard of accountability. So maybe not in terms of gender, but in this case, for example, social media platforms have a set of regulations imposed on them because the likelihood of risky content being uploaded there by users is higher because they have a large number of users, right? So they would have more enforcement requirements as opposed to um, uh,
A game.
if something has less than 5 million users, then it won't have that requirement.
Understood. No, I think so. If what the way you're explaining about it, I would say that the risk-based modeling, and we have seen that in the advertising regulation space as well, specifically where earlier there was, when initially the policy was being formed out, it was about, hey, that everyone is treated equal, every platform is treated equal. And then later on, when more clarity and more detailing went in, it went into the specifics of how each type of advertiser, where that content gets hosted, etc., is treated separately. I feel that is the right thing to do because there are certain, to Nikhil's point, and I completely agree, there are certain platforms which have a higher tendency or higher impact, example being news, example being social, which have a higher trust ecosystem with the end audiences and consumer as well, where regulation tends to, or let's say the consumer is at a higher risk of trusting what they hear or see in those platforms. So I would say if that kind of methodology is done versus, let's say, an e-commerce platform where if an ad is running, it may not have that kind of an impact.
So, Sid, one question on ads, right? There are a lot of fake AI generated ads, and that are on networks and on platforms. And for example, they would be, as Rajni had mentioned, they'd be listed in the middle of the night, run for 24 hours before the platforms can even act. They are deleted. And so the impact has already happened, right? How do we solve for things like that, especially in advertising? Because, and should there be a higher threshold of control for advertising, because clearly advertising is promoted, has greater reach, has greater impact, as opposed to UGC, so to speak.
I think
But
so.
I haven't used that phrase for a decade. UGC.
So I think so in advertising, and it's been a great area of personal interest, because I've seen large global platforms, and we run media monetization, right? So we enable publishers or media owners to earn money through advertising. We have actually been at receiving end for it, in terms of we see advertisers who come up, they will fraud out the end consumers. Example, they'll come up with a website, oh, this bag is available for 1,000 rupees. They will take the money and then disappear. And now the consumer is reaching out to the media owner that, hey, I saw this ad on your platform, and this company doesn't exist, right? So again, we have to block the advertiser as an ad quality, because they'll spoil the experience. They're fraudulent people, etc. We end up losing, like today I can tell you that there is at least around 10% of money which get lost by media owners because of these things. So we are a impacted party as compared to a profiting party to this account. So I would say that there is enough economic interest which is built for us. Just today morning, 2 hours, I was talking about ad quality and with the ad safety team, that there is a certain pool of advertisers within the health space which are trying to advertise in Europe, and there's a whole thing about what are the kind of compliances, what are the kind of undertaking, what are the kind of insurances we can do so that the advertising can happen. So it's not an India specific problem, it's a global problem. And like I said, already there's enough economic interest built in for the platform owners, so it doesn't require any more attention of the government. We are on it, we are losing money left, right, center.
So no attention on advertising.
We can avoid any more regulation on that.
So there was a question here first. I think the gentleman's gone. Okay, here.
Yes. So do you think the art like movie, theater, etc., it is going to survive in the future with the development of AI? Because we have recently seen TV shows with no human actors, no production cost. Mahabharat has recently come out. It's a purely AI generated thing.
Yeah, it should have a 10% coverage disclaimer. I'm kidding. By the way, Sanket, who was on right at the beginning, they've just run an AI movie festival in Bombay. Very hard to get in touch with him because till yesterday it was going on. So look, this is it's impacting the canvas is really wide for them in terms
Probably
of
the first job that AI has eaten up right now.
No, the first job was content writers. Back 3 years ago, in 2022, when ChatGPT launched November 22, content writer, that job description died then. So not the first impact. But I can give you a whole laundry list of impact.
But do you think it's going to drive out the traditional media in entirety?
Not this conversation. We can do a separate discussion on AI, copyright, and impact. It's a conversation I want to do.
But I'll just add to one thing is that I disagree. I feel that whenever such kind of thing happen, it only democratize and create a new opportunity. Yes. Right. So when technology came, we got content creators got created. We have new heroes like Bhuvan Bum, etc., which got created because of democratization thanks to technology. So with AI, you'll find completely new set of beneficiaries coming in. The old world may get impact, but the smart guys will evolve, and they will, definitely they're not going to go away.
We will have this conversation offline. Anyone else?
So when it comes
There's no immediate. Oh, sorry. No, go ahead, please.
So when it comes to synthetic content, there's a dichotomy, right? In one way, of course, you'll find a lot of people saying, oh, this is AI, this is synthetic media. But those same videos still generate millions of views. So clearly people are watching them. People are, really engaging with them. Many of them end up sharing because they find it very cute or they find it very entertaining. So do we know for certain that if you label it, it will reduce trust? Or is that is that an assumption or is that empirical?
No, see, I think it's highly contextual. For example,
So actually, Siddharth explained that in the beginning, Rajneel, where he talked about the percentage difference in advertising clicks. We can go back to that later. But Abhishek, you want to add to
oh no, I was just saying that it's super contextual. Like, see, if it's your bank calling you about something and they're not telling you it's AI, but it's AI, you could lose trust. But if it's an ad you're maybe looking at, maybe you lose a little bit of trust, but not as much as the bank, right? So again, it's just about how humans perceive this. I think that's what's key.
It's about having MSG in your noodles, whether you should know or not.
Okay, it's also possible that those ads are those videos are actually being watched by bots.
That's also the case. Sorry. Question, comment?
So one of the things which I majorly felt, which I wanted to share was the synthetic generated content versus the deepfake AI. Like there should be a difference between both of them, like the regulations.
Next session. That's
Okay.
in my questions. Solutions, anyone? Sorry.
Yeah, in terms of the dichotomy of AI as a tool or an enabler, this idea of consent in a decentralized setting, there's healthcare, and then there's just recently there's been this incident that
What does this have to do with the regulation? I'm gonna.
The regulation specifically is that you can use source content in a setting like a public hospital and misuse it using AI and generate something else like commercial speech. Now, just this yesterday, this videos of a whole year's footage of gynac examinations at a Gujarat hospital have been converted into AI generated content. So when I hear this thing about which end do you regulate, I am tempted to ask this question. Where do you hold the bull by the horns or by the tail? So, if any reflections from the business on this, because they are the ones who are going to implement the consent while generating any such content.
I think that was already answered in the conversation that it should be on the user and the distribution side and not the generation side.
Okay.
That was already answered.
Right.
So we're going to close very quickly. Any recommendations on what's the right way forward? Like, is there a list, is a wish list thing? This is don't touch this or do this and don't do this.
I think so. My fundamental belief is that, from the output standpoint, we definitely need to start getting into some kind of a watermarking, putting metadata in, and we need to figure out a blockchain, a registry where we are tagging everything out. So at least whatever we can, we should start tracking. I think that's become fundamental.
Who's going to bear the cost of blockchain?
I think so. It is for the better good of the society, and if the government is represented to the society, then
So the government should
not the platform.
do the infrastructure cost. Very
This
nicely
is
done.
yeah, no, it's fundamental. I think so. This is the important area where we need to invest as society. So it is the onus on the government to come up with that kind of the registry of the infrastructure.
I'll never forget the line. Ajit Khurana, who used to be the CEO of ZepPay, we did a workshop with them maybe about 5-6 years ago. First line he said was, a blockchain is the most inefficient database ever made.
I want a registry. I don't care if it's blockchain or not.
Fair
It is
enough.
offline to discuss.
Fair enough. Abhishek?
I'm not really sure, but I would think that.
What do you not want?
No, what I think is that if the government cares about this so much, because deepfakes are a problem, and someone, maybe, I don't know, pretending to be a politician or creating a video of a politician is a problem, I think you should have like really severe criminal penalties for someone doing that. You don't need to label all data. You don't need to do all of these things, which are like so massive.
But if the provenance is not feasible right now, so they're trying to establish provenance so that they know which throat to choke, right? But
no, but in this case, if we talk about deepfakes very specifically, deepfakes are created with an intent to mislead.
Correct.
Right? Someone is using model systems, whatever. They could use Photoshop also and do it.
I can question that because there was this one, if you remember, I don't know if you remember this, you probably don't, but in 2018, there was this entire issue about a video being circulated about people going on motorbikes into an Indian village and picking up kids, like this kidnapping kids from that village, right? That was a video created in Pakistan to create awareness that got cropped, spread in India. Messages were sent across to different people in different villages. And 2 people got lynched because they were outsiders who came into that village on a motorbike. So intent can show up as at down this down the road
No,
in a
exactly.
sense, right?
So that's what I feel, right? So people, for example, who are causing harm, in this case, people who cropped that video, and then the people who shared it, knowing that this might
But there is
cause.
no provenance for who cropped the video. Once it goes on to WhatsApp, it or even on Twitter or on YouTube, it gets transcoded, and so that metadata gets lost.
But Nikhil,
Metadata can be stripped.
no, even if we like disregard metadata, say that someone posts it,
Huh.
a platform like Twitter can trace back to who made the original post.
But in WhatsApp traceability, they've gone to court to prevent traceability. You have a privacy problem there.
That is true.
Because if
That
you
is
bring
true.
traceability, then there's a privacy issue. You're tracing everyone's messages and linking it to them.
That's true. That's true. But the privacy problem, I think, stands here as well, right? If we create like some sort of metadata that ties a user
So
to
what we're
everything.
dealing with here is a fake news problem, which we've been talking about for 6 years, 8 years, uh, except it's transformed itself into a deep fake problem.
Exactly. It's just that the fake news now is so convincing we can't tell the difference between reality. That's
Because
all.
we've
Yeah.
crossed the uncanny valley right
Yeah.
there.
I
So
agree.
recommendations?
I think the blockchain idea is interesting. I don't know if it's feasible.
Is Amlan still in the room? Okay, that was one of Amlan's recommendations. Fair enough.
The blockchain one?
Yeah.
No, I think it's an interesting idea. But I also like the risk-based approach. Maybe I think just more thoughtful sort of narrow regulation, which actually might get enforced. I think that would be great.
Okay. Paushali, recommendations for audio?
Yeah, just before recommendation, I'll just quickly touch on something Siddharth and Abhishek have said. But I would like to disagree with Siddharth a little bit on the watermarking and labeling everything. I do not think that is the way to go because, like as you mentioned, all the metadata can be stripped if required. So the question is, how do we regulate intent? Because bad actors will always find a way. That is one point I want to add. And recommendations, I would say, is you definitely have to, the government has to provide us flexibility with how we comply. For example, the 10% rule, me being a voice ecosystem provider, if I can do it better and more efficiently over text rather than voice, that flexibility should be there. And of course, the harm principle that tools which are used for productivity versus tools which are used for mass scale manipulation and deception have to be regulated differently.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
I'm just saying tools which are used for productivity and efficiency of, say, small businesses versus tools which are used for mass scale deception and manipulation, like the deepfakes, which we are actually trying to regulate. They have to be regulated differently. You
how
cannot
do
do a
you
one size fits all.
how do you differentiate between the two?
See, I can only say it from my voice ecosystem perspective that because we are an enterprise software provider. So we are not a consumer focused provider. So I can differentiate on that. If someone else with consumer focusing ecosystem can comment on that, that would be nice. But I think
I
regulating the intent is more important.
how do you regulate for intent?
That is that the government has to find a way. That the government has to find a way. Definitely. Different classify different tools and different intermediaries or service providers into different brackets.
Got it. Okay. Thanks, Paushali. Thanks for joining us. And thank you for messaging when you did. Great to have you on. Thanks, Siddharth. I know you're not used to policy conversations externally, but thanks for putting yourself out there. Uh, Abhishek, thank you for joining us, and all the best with the AI personas before the regulation comes out. Thanks, guys. I think we'll take a short break and we'll discuss the legal aspects immediately after this. I hope you've got a great sense of how AI is being used in this ecosystem. One thing about the next session, except for Mr. Maheshwari, that conversation is under Chatham House, so no naming anyone. Mr. Maheshwari said he wants to waive Chatham House, so you can quote him, but no quoting anyone else, please. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Good to see you. And focus. It does.